Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Hey Minbo, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you? It's been a,
Doing
it's been
good.
a it's been a while, a couple
Sure
years,
has.
I think. Yeah.
Almost. Yeah, it's been almost a
hmm
couple of years, but yeah, it's great. Thank you so much for saying yes and for coming
Yeah.
on. I
Oh,
really
definitely.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, before we get started, man, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do,
Mhm.
your everyday interests, hobbies, future aspirations, likes, dislikes, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. So, hey guys, my name is Minbo Sim, and I graduated from UCO in 2020 spring, which is the worst time of everyone's life. And I've known Prateek for like 4 years, I think.
Almost, yeah.
It's been quite a few years. Yeah, and I'm currently working as a web developer for a nonprofit organization in Oklahoma.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we met through for added context for those of you who are not aware.
Mhm.
Minbo and I met through like the International Student Council and like the country associations that are part of campus activities. So that's how we initially met each other. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like you just mentioned that like that was probably the worst time for
Mhm.
everybody. What was your feeling like going into that phase of graduation while seeing what was happening around the world?
Oh man, I mean, well, first of all, you know, as an international student, we have such a limited time to find a job, right? And everything, every process, like the government, that has been done by the government, has been slowed down, and all the companies like had hiring freeze, and yeah, I mean, just going through that and counting those days uh, that I have to be hired was such a big stress to me. But thank God I went through, and thankfully there was a company who would hire me. But yeah, 2020 was really bad. But from 2021, like January, February, March, I start getting interview offers from like 4 or 5 companies. But 2020, I got none. So I think things are like I can feel that things are getting better and better since I graduated. So I don't think you guys should be worried as long as you are have that prepared mindset to find a job.
Definitely. What was some positive? Like, were there any positives that you took out from 2020 in general? I know that's a bit of a grim question to ask because of how negative the feeling was that year, but I'm just curious to
Well,
know.
well, since pandemic, like school and everything shut down from like March of 2020, right? So I
Right.
got to spend a lot of time at home, and while I was at home, I just I never really watched like K drama, K drama, K pop,
hmm
K movies, have gotten really popular since like Parasite and Gangnam Style, but I've never really paid attention to K drama. And while I was at home, I finished this whole episode of K drama on Netflix. I think that was like one of the things like I guess that's one of my achievement during the pandemic. Yeah,
No.
like seriously, I've never really even thought about watching a K drama from like episode 1 to episode like 20. So I
Mm,
finished that. Then I just spent a lot of time at home. I got to see my family, like my sister, my aunt, my uncle. Just spend time with them a lot, I guess. Because I usually, when I was at school, I mostly spend time like outside, and I only come home when I have to go to the bed.
mm.
So I think that's pretty much how everyone feels. I'm pretty sure everyone has done something, that they have never done before.
Hmm.
Yeah. But what about you? Have you done anything like?
Well, I mean, in 2020, like that was when I started thinking about starting this podcast. So, I started
Yeah.
working on some things. I watched a couple of Skillshare classes, not
Hmm.
sponsored by Skillshare, but just mentioning them because it's a good platform. But
Hmm.
anyway, yeah, I watched a couple of courses. I took a couple of courses on Skillshare, I should say, and then I started in 2021. So 2020, while it was quite negative in a lot of ways, I think it came with some positives of, just thinking about the things
Hmm.
that I want to explore and try and just experiment with. So
Hmm.
yeah, like this that we're doing right now is definitely something that came out of 2020 for sure.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have imagined in 2019 that I would have started a podcast.
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah.
it's kind of wild how things work out.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
what was it
nice.
about? Yeah, thank you. But what is it about those K dramas that like kept you watching? Because a lot of the times, like if
Oh.
you don't like a show, it's very easy to stop
Uh-huh.
watching after the first episode, right? So
Well,
what was it that?
first, the actress is my favorite actress,
Oh, okay,
Korean
okay.
actress. So that was the very first thing, and second, my sister was basically playing that K drama like, in the living room like whole day.
Hmm.
So, you know, even when I'm in my even when I'm in my room with door shut, I still could hear it every day, like all day long. So, one day I just decided to go out and see, just check out how the drama is. And by the time I, you know, was got interested in watching the drama, my sister was already watching episode 8, which was almost halfway, and she knew I was really into the K drama, so she started watching from episode 1 with me. So that's how I really started.
Hmm.
But
Gotcha.
it's mainly about this rich like a rich, spoiled, like Korean female was doing like a paragliding, I guess,
Hmm.
and there was like a weather problem, like a storm and stuff, like the wind. It
Hmm.
got really windy, so she somehow flew to you know she was trapped to North Korea, and which wasn't supposed to happen. Which wasn't supposed to happen to anybody, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, so she met this like a officer from the North Korean army. Then they fell in love, and the officer helped her to escape from North Korea, and he eventually uh, escaped from North Korea to South Korea to see her, and he went back eventually. So it was quite like a thrilling
Hmm.
case drama.
Hmm. I feel like I've heard about this one. I don't know why.
Yeah,
What's the name
yeah.
of it?
Let me find the name of
Because I feel
it.
like I've heard about it. So
Oh yeah, it's called Crash Landing on You.
okay, Crash Landing on You. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
'Cause I feel like I've seen a
but
video about it.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's from one of my favorite movies of Korea.
Gotcha.
So since I was like 14, 13,
Right, right,
so I
right, right.
really like her. So that's
Gotcha.
so that's yeah, that's one of the reasons I started watching.
Mm, mm, mm.
Mhm.
I see. I see. Yeah, like that's. I think that's one thing about these shows, right? Like once you start watching them,
Yeah,
if
you can't
there is
stop.
something, yeah, well, if there is something that's interesting, like it keeps you there. You want to watch
Mhm.
everything like right away, and I think that's something that Netflix and a lot of these other platforms have made it possible to where
Mhm.
you can just binge watch the whole show if you want to, right?
Mhm.
Do you binge watch a lot of shows or no? Are you the kind of person that watches one at a time?
Well, I mean, like after I moved here for the job, I start watching like more than ever. My sister has this Netflix account. Like we could definitely share, but I just never tried to watch. Spend time on Netflix. But after I moved here, I just got really bored since there's like nothing here, right? So I just and I also got this big like 65-inch TV. So I just felt like I have to watch something. So I started borrowing the Netflix account from my sister and just watching like all the some Netflix like Netflix shows and some reality shows.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
some of them, but not a lot. Just like a
Hmm.
very little.
Hmm.
Mhm.
What show are you watching right now? Are you watching a show right now?
Uh well, one of them is called like a Too Hot to Handle.
Oh,
It may,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen that show.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you know, it has like a different like a version from like like Latin and USA, Brazil.
Yeah, I
Like
think
they
so.
release in different countries, and I looked up and I heard the one that was filmed in Brazil is supposed to be the one that like big the like, what do I call it, like I guess like very very like intense, I guess.
Gotcha.
So I
Okay.
start watching the one to how to handle in Brazil.
Okay. Interesting.
See,
Interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard about that show. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I've watched
Yeah,
that show too.
yeah,
I
I've
mean,
watched until episode 5, I think.
yeah, yeah. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of like this show where they bring really attractive people
Mhm.
to this island. There's basically like I think equal number of boys and girls, but
Mhm.
then during the season they like bring in more people and they throw
Yeah,
in
yeah.
some like twists and turns and all that. Like
Mhm.
the basic premise of the show is to try and see if they can stay away from indulging in sex because a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
these people seem to be sex addicts.
Mhm.
So it's kind of funny in some ways to watch, but it's
Yeah,
just like in some sense, like I personally think it's just dumb entertainment. Like watching
yeah, yeah, yeah.
watching these people being interesting
Mhm.
and funny in their own weird way.
Oh, and
Or like
by the way, do you like from my screen, like your face is like really blurry once you start like recording? Like, do you have that issue too?
no, it's yeah. I mean, it's a
Oh,
little, but it's not a big deal because it's just
okay.
recording in we can see each other on low quality, but
Oh,
the recording has got a better quality. So no
okay, better
worries about
quality. Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just don't want. I just don't want like I just don't want
Grainy video.
it to be the same like when it's uploaded to the YouTube.
No, no,
So
no. I get
just
yeah,
making
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
get it. Yeah, like, yeah, I see what you're saying. It
Mhm.
basically records at a higher quality, so
Mhm.
to make
Oh, so it
that,
happens to everybody.
yeah, yeah,
See,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it was my computer's problem.
No, no, no,
But they
you're good.
start having problem like
You're good.
so
It's all
sorry.
good. It's all
Hmm.
good. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun show. It's a little weird, but yeah, it's interesting in its own weird way. Um, but yeah, I mean, let's talk about web design since that's what you're doing right now.
Oh,
Um,
like web development,
web development. Excuse
not
me.
design. Yeah,
Sorry,
design
sorry.
is something completely like something I can never do. I would never do.
Gotcha. How would you differentiate those two? How would you differentiate development from web design? Like if you
Oh,
had
I
to
guess
differentiate.
design is more like like graphic design and stuff, like
Hmm.
more like design. But web development is more like like creating a website.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like what happens when you click this. Anything pops up like when you click this link. Like navigate nav bar, yeah,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Hmm. What made you interested in wanting to work in this space?
Well, I mean, first I changed my major to computer science about in 2017.
Hmm.
At that time, like when I was about to change the major to computer science, like I've always wanted to work in Wall Street one day,
Hmm.
and I just started thinking like, what can I, honestly, UCO is not the target school of Wall Street, right? Like to be honest,
Yeah.
there's NYU in Manhattan, New York, and I know that's the target school of of Wall Street, and there are more Ivy League schools around there on the East Coast. So I just thought that there's no way I can find a job in Wall Street with you know uh, after graduating from a school in the Midwest, out of
Hmm.
nowhere. So I start thinking like, how can I get a job? Like, how can I how can I be able to work in Wall Street? And I just thought that computer science is something that is really depending on your skill, like purely on your skill, as long as you prove it. And as you may know, there's a lot of like coding interview.
Mm.
when you get into, you know, when you get an interview offer. So that's kind of how I started, uh, switching my major to computer science. So if I, as long as I do very well, gain, years of experience, then I may have like a higher possibility to get to work in Wall Street.
Mm. Mm. What was your major before you switched to computer science,
Well,
and was
I
it
changed my
challenging?
major a few times, but the
Gotcha.
last one before, computer science was engineering.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So not too much difference.
Yeah. Was that transition hard for you, like making that transition, or was it a lot more easier because they're similar?
Well, I took this basic programming class when I first chose engineering major, and that was a class I suffered the most, like ever in my life. After drawing class from the second grade, and when I before I changed my major, I of course, like, all you learn is like programming, right? And like, when I imagine I have to take many courses of what I suffered before, and I did hesitate a little bit, but I also thought that, if I really work at Wall Street one day, this is something, I may, I have to get over with.
Mm. Mm.
But I mean, it was a really hard decision, but eventually, I mean, I'm happy with like what I chose, in at that time.
Right. Because yeah, especially I think being an international student, there's that additional burden of
Mm-hmm.
um, cost
Yeah.
and things like that because you have a lot more money to spend and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely has a role to play in terms of decision making and making that switch. So totally. But what is it about Wall Street that interests you in wanting to work there?
Well, I moved to Oklahoma when in 2007, and
Mm.
from 2008 I started going to this Korean church, and we've got, I was in youth group, like, high school kids, like eighth grade, middle school, high school, and we've had a lot of like smart kids. They, like, here, a lot of people usually tend to stay in their own like home state to attend the college, like OU, UCO, OSU. But they've always had different goals, and that's what really like motivated me. Like, as I grew up, and they found a job. I know this one guy I know. He found a job in Wall Street, and now he's doing very great. Like, he's been living in New York, like, since he moved there for college. And I have this another girl who went to an Ivy League school in New York City, and she also got a job there. And I have like two, three more people who got a job there, and that's kind of their transition from Oklahoma to to New York really like motivated me. Like I just felt like, yeah, I want to be the motivation of someone from Oklahoma. So that
Mm.
is why, you know, that is why I want to work at Wall Street.
Mm. Fascinating. Yeah, because I mean, I think especially in a country like the US, and I think this is very similar. I don't know how much you can speak to this for Korea, but definitely it's quite similar for India too, in some sense, where people move from smaller villages and cities to like the bigger towns
Hmm.
and to the
I
bigger
mean,
cities and states.
U.S. and India, they're big countries, so I
Yeah.
understand like how you want to stay in your own boundary, but
Hmm.
I just, those are the people like they're kind of like uh, they kind of felt special from people I've met in Oklahoma. So that's what kind of made me want to go out and
Hmm.
experience like something new, like bigger, expand in a bigger city.
Hmm. What is it that you want to do at Wall Street? Like, what would you want to work as?
Just like a computer science, like
Hmm.
any kind of like software development, web development. That's something I think I can do. because
Hmm.
that's what I studied.
Right, right, right. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what my
yeah.
bachelor's is. Right.
Hmm. So you feel like you can develop the skills that you require and then sort of take that jump. Got
Yeah, I think I can. If I just like stay diligent, try to get more certification and add more skill set, and then I think I have a pretty good shot to at least get interviewed.
right, right, right. Yeah. What are some like classes and skills that you're trying to add? I'm just curious to know because I think we live in a world today where it's
hmm
education is very accessible, which is a
Yeah, yeah,
great thing. So I'm curious to know like what are some skills that you're trying to add on that would improve your
yeah. Well, first, stuff I'm doing at work right now is like a
Mhm.
new, programming languages to develop a website. That's one of the thing, and the other thing is like this IT certification for operating systems. That helps you like configure, server and manage the user groups, and that's my first goal. First goal is to get a certification in IT.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah, because I think, especially like we sort of briefly mentioned, right? Like we do live in a world where there's a lot of potential to learn things.
hmm
Just sitting in Oklahoma, you can learn a lot about the world.
hmm
Same applies to I guess a kid sitting in a rural part in India. Where there is accessible internet,
hmm
you have access to all those things. So, like for you, in terms of um, I guess just developing that skill and sort of making that jump, do you think like the world in itself is becoming more open to the extra knowledge that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, like whatever you want to learn today, like everything is on the YouTube and internet. So I think you have more opportunities than uh, our parents did like 20, 30 years ago. Back my dad is about to be 60 now, but he tried to learn English like when he was like 12 or 13. But he lived in a very poor village, and you know, and even at that time there weren't that many like foreigners in Korea to learn English from or the curriculum at public school. So he just started teaching himself English by listening to the Beatles, the cassette tape. That's how he learned. But compared to uh, my how I grew up, like in like early 2000 or even late 99, even late 90s, like I could just go to any class out there, like on the street, like any class, like private lesson to learn whatever I want to, and even like today, you don't even have to pay someone to teach you because you have all the access online. There's always a way to get a resource for free. So I think the world is like one good thing about advanced technology is that it gives you like an opportunity to just learn anything you want, anything you're
Hmm.
interested in.
Definitely, definitely. Like, I think acquiring that skill and sort of improving
hmm
yourself can go a long way and sort of just
hmm
developing yourself as a human being as well. Because those additional skills definitely
hmm
show. Like,
Yes,
when you have
and
something to show. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
guess one bad thing about having everything online today is that you have to learn. You just have to keep adding new skills to your resume because if you don't, you stay behind like everyone. So
Hmm.
you just have to keep learning, like especially like you know, I don't know about other majors, but my major, like the technology like trend like changes every year. So you just have to you can never just stay at where you are. You just have to keep moving forward, and you just have to try to learn more skills to get better. Otherwise, you're just gonna stay behind when you're gonna just stay right here when everyone is like all the way over here.
Right, like there is that gap that builds up if
hmm
you sort of stay where you
hmm
are while everybody else around you is just building up on the knowledge that they have. But do you feel like that constant struggle? I don't think so, but I'm just curious to know what your
Mhm.
like opinions are on this. But do you think that constant struggle of wanting to add more skills and sort of having to be um like needing to have 10 different skills, like it's a bit of added pressure that's unnecessary? I don't know if that's the right
Well,
way to put it, but I'm
well, I
curious to
think
know
it's
your views.
necessary to just stay diligent because I always tell myself to stay diligent.
Hmm.
Just do something extra. Like for example, it doesn't have to be like your job skills.
Hmm.
Like just going out and do some exercise. Like these days, I go to the gym straight after work, like sitting on my chair for 8 hours at in my office. So that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to do. Like I'm even after the workout at the gym, like I still try to learn something because my dad is like 58, but he's gonna retire in about like in 2024, but he start getting certifications, like even though he's about to retire in 2 years, and he always pushes me to just learn more stuff, get get more certification, like as many as you can, just to be prepared. Because you know like today people live like people can live until they're 100 years old. you know People live longer these days, so you cannot just like one day you have to retire. Like, I mean, your employer will make you retire. They will try to replace you with like a younger generation who can think and work quicker. And if you retire, I mean, if you're somehow forced to retire when you're 62, 65, what about the next 20 years, right? So I think it's very important to live busy. That's also one thing I always tell my girlfriend. Like, always be always stay diligent, like try to accomplish something. Doesn't have to be study related, but just anything.
Hmm. Anything that you can do to improve yourself.
Hmm.
Definitely, definitely. I see where you're coming from because, yeah, that's a very interesting thought about, how our life expectancies have
Hmm.
changed to where
Hmm.
we can probably now live closer to
Yeah.
100 years than we could ever have as human beings.
Yeah.
Um,
And in Korea we call this like 100 years generation, which means people live up to a lot of people can live, like stay alive up to like 100 years old. So you always have to prepare, like you know like we have to retire 50s or even 60. But what about the next like 30, 40 years? Like, what are we going to do?
yeah, very true. Because I
So you
think
always have to find something to survive in the society.
definitely, because I think back in the day, 60
Hmm.
was like, okay, this is closer to when, things start
70,
winding
80.
down.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like 70, 80 was life expectancy. So, 60 would seem like a good time to sort of
Hmm.
stop.
Slow down. Yeah.
Right. Slow down, stop, retire, go to a nice place and just relax.
Hmm.
But yeah, like now, definitely, like even though like the retirement age, so to speak, is 60 years,
Hmm.
like you said, there's definitely like that thing to where you need to add more skills as much as you can to where
Hmm.
you can even sustain after that.
Hmm.
Because,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
definitely.
like, yeah, like even with the way like medical science has improved, people
Oh,
can
yeah,
contribute to
definitely.
that. And like,
Hmm.
right, so it can definitely make health a lot more better. But I'm
Hmm.
curious to know, like, since you mentioned the fact that you go to the gym after work, that's something that I do myself too. I go to
Hmm.
work, go
Hmm.
to the gym after work too, and I've tried to be a little more diligent about it because I used to go to the gym before, but then it would be like an up and down thing. Sometimes I
Hmm.
wouldn't go, like if I had too many assignments or like a project or something, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I just need to get that done, so I won't go to the gym, and then I would never go to the gym after that.
Hmm.
So like I've tried to be consistent with it over the past few months. So I'm curious to know, like, what's something that you've like seen change in yourself ever since you've like consistently gone to the gym?
I mean, I did go to the gym like pretty often, I would say, but there's a
Hmm.
time I stopped for a long time, like, especially since the pandemic started. And, like when I moved here for the job, I've never worked 8 hours a day before. So after work every day, I would just come home, and what I did was just like just laying on the floor, and somehow I fell I fell asleep, and when I woke up, it's like 9, 10 p.m. Like I take a long nap if I really try to, and then obviously you cannot go back to sleep until you're 2, 3 a.m. So I'll usually go back to sleep around 3, 4 a.m. And my daily cycle just like changed, and and I just gained a lot of weight. Like I've gained about 30 pounds like since pandemic. That's why that's main reason I'm trying to go to the gym like straight after work. So just try to be diligent, like not fall asleep, not taking a nap on the weekdays. Maybe on the weekend, I can take a day or 2 days off from the gym. That's what I do on every Saturday. I just like lay on my bed. I lay on my bed. I never step out of my apartment. But on the weekday, at least on the weekday, I try to try not to take a nap after work, because it just messes up like your whole day, rest of your day.
Totally, totally. Yeah. I can relate to that because there would be days when I would come back from work, I would
Mm-hmm.
just take a shower and I would go to bed and I would
Mm-hmm.
like straight knock myself out to like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I have to wake up quite early because my shift starts at like
Oh yeah.
7:30. So, and I have 10-hour shifts at this job, but we only work for 4 days a week. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that balance. But yeah, still, like, I would come back home after like around 7 o'clock or whatever
Mm-hmm.
and take a shower and just when I try to wind down, that's it. I knock myself out, I'm asleep. And yeah, but definitely like after I've been a little more consistent with going to the gym and making sure I try to eat as better as I can,
Mm-hmm.
like you can definitely see like energy change, like the
Oh
amount of
yeah.
energy that you
Yeah.
have. So have
Yeah.
you noticed that in yourself too?
I'm also trying to eat healthy actually, but I mean, it definitely feels different like after working out. Of course, you look like better, I guess. Like I mean, I don't see the result at this time, but I can feel it's getting better. Like I'm, looking better, like looking more fit. know, when everyone is getting old, and if you just do nothing about it, like if you just eat whatever you want, and just take a nap whenever you want, and when you realize it's too late, then it's gonna get very hard to you know go back to when you're 20s, because like now I already like I'm 29, I'm gonna be 30 next month, but I already feel that like after lifting, running, like it takes like twice or three times like more to recover. Because when I was like 21, when I first started lifting when I was 21, I could go to the gym and lift like very intense, like 5 days a week, and now like 3 4 days, like I'm done.
Hmm. Yeah, it's very true. Like there is like a bit of an energy dip, I guess, after
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
pass your 20s, because that's what they
Yeah.
say, right? Like I've heard people also mention that
um,
when you're in your 20s, you can eat like trash and still
oh
be
yeah.
okay. You can get by, but once you get into your late 20s, early 30s, and from then on, like you have to be really careful about what you eat because then it can get worse.
Yeah, I mean recovery, I think is a very, like that's the first thing, like you can feel the difference when you get
Hmm.
older. Like you can
Right.
still, I mean, people get people get like the strongest like when you're like 29 or like early 30. But I think that's true because I'm feeling it, like I feel like I'm lifting more, even like compared to how much time I took to take a break from the gym. But recovering takes like extra time to recover.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
Hmm.
It's fascinating because the other interesting thing I think, which is a good thing, is that a lot of people have become a lot more health conscious today. So,
Hmm.
I mean, the gym that I go to, I see
Hmm.
where quite older people also coming in, doing weights, doing what they can, like
Hmm.
whatever they can do to the best of their mobility
Hmm.
and their accessibility. They try to lift weights and things like that, which I've like started like I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that it's very important for people to lift weights,
Hmm.
but I've never really like growing up. I never really knew about, or not that I knew, not that I didn't know about it, but it wasn't something that was necessarily encouraged as much
Mhm.
until after I started being in some circles where they were like, yeah, you should
Mhm.
start lifting, you should do this, you should do that. I was like, all right, like, is that similar to back home too, to where people, is there a lifting
Oh
culture
yeah,
there too?
I mean, I haven't been to my home country for 5 years, but I've friends like who go back every year, you know every other year. But people definitely say that there are, more people who are lifting on the street. Like you can see that they're lifting, like when you walk on the street. Like a lot of people actually, you know, they do care a lot about how they look, not just like a skin, but also the body.
Yeah, because I mean, you can tell, like, especially if you lift, like, you're at least in a man, the body composition changes a lot
Mm-hmm.
to where your shoulders become a lot broader, your
Mm-hmm.
chest becomes a little wider. So, like, you get that V taper. Like, eventually, it doesn't come like
Oh
right
yeah.
away, but you get that V where your shoulders are wide and you
Mm-hmm.
start narrowing down. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, definitely that's something that you notice as
Mm-hmm.
you have consistently lifted for a long amount of time. Like, I mean, intermittently, like, that's something that I need to change in myself, which is something that I'm working on, is like being consistent with lifting and not just doing it for 4 months and then stopping. So um I think that's a challenge in itself. So, like, how do you overcome some of those obstacles that you might face every day, of like, when you get this thought, oh, like, today work is a little tiring, man, I probably shouldn't go to the gym, like, but you still push yourself. How do you push yourself if you, like, have those moments?
Oh, first I drink coffee an hour before I get off work. Or protein drink, but now I'm drinking coffee these days, and which is the method, it's the way that a lot of like lifters do actually. You need some caffeine to wake up before you lift. So that's one thing I do. And when I get really tired at work, because I live in office, I mean, I not live in, I work at office environment. So it's like, I'm just like trapped in indoor office in my cubicle all day. So when I really get tired, I will just like take a walk, take some stairs to kind of stay awake. So that's what I would usually do. There's a day I get real tired, so I'll just go home. But mostly I try to, just push myself to do more and more.
Hmm. How important, I mean, we've probably already touched on this, but I'm
Mhm.
curious to sort of expand on this specifically a little more. How important do you think it is for us as humans to push more? Because I think it's very easy. I mean, like, everybody has their challenges. I'm not
Mhm.
diminishing the fact that people don't have challenges, but I do think, like you said, right, it's about being very diligent and trying to
Mhm.
upscale your own skills and things like that. So, how important do you think it is for us as humans to push? Just push to do more, be it in terms of improving your health, improving the skills that you have, and so on.
Oh, like I said earlier, you know, like internet has everything. You get all the information you want. Like everything is provided. Like I mean, there are gyms everywhere,
Hmm.
and unlike it used to be like 20, 30 years ago, like those like weightlifters, like they didn't have any knowledge, so they just had to like it was very hard for them to develop themselves. But like but today is the world is just very too convenient to ignore, or like too convenient to make excuses. you know i
Interesting. Yeah.
may I may be a little strict, like strict than a lot of people. But I really think like when people say, "Oh, I can do this, I cannot do this because of this, that," I really think it's excuse. Like I really see it as
Hmm.
excuse.
That's interesting. That's interesting. You look at it that way, like the fact that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that there's a lot of convenience now to where we don't have an excuse
Mm-hmm.
to not do something, which I agree with. I agree with what you're saying. But I do feel like that convenience has also affected us to where it
Mm-hmm.
makes us quite complacent as human
Mm-hmm.
beings, which, like you said, like, we all find reasons to not do something, like, back
Mm-hmm.
in the day, or not that long ago, but while I was in college, like, if I had an assignment, I would find that as a reason. Okay, I won't go to the gym
Mhm.
today because I have to work on this assignment.
Mhm.
While I could have managed my time better. Retrospectively, I look at it
Mhm.
this way. I could have managed my time better and then gone to the gym and also done my assignment. I could have done both things.
Mhm.
Like at the end of the day, it's in my own hands how I take care of my time.
Mhm.
So that's definitely something quite interesting to think about because um, I think because of the amount of convenience we have in this world, I don't want to say it's easy to be lazy, but
Mhm.
it's easy to not do things. How do
Right.
you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree on both sides. Like like it's like you can like it's non-excusable either, or it's too easy. You know, not to do this because you'll get you'll be able to seek help from anywhere. I agree on both sides, but if I think if you want something in your life, if you want to earn more in your life, but then I think you should really have to think of like what can you do to earn anything that you wanted.
Hmm. Definitely, like to earn more, you have to kind of work
Hmm.
harder. You have to
I mean,
work.
if you're happy with where you are, then it's okay. But
Right,
I'm
right.
pretty sure there's something you want like today, like more than like you did yesterday. Like if you see something that you want, then you want to buy this. But like, what do you have to do? You just have to work more. I mean, spend more time, investing on on yourself.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Because while it does take energy, it, I guess in some sense gives you
Hmm.
like a level of dedication to work towards
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, I mean, I've noticed this in myself. Like, sure, there are days where I stay at home and just watch some wrestling or some cricket or some soccer
Hmm.
or whatever. Um, but there's always like a voice in my head that's like, yeah, you need to do this. Yeah, you need to do that. You need to do this to like be better and, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, that's just the way I am, I guess. But I'm curious to know because
Hmm.
um, do you think as humans we deserve anything? I know it's a very philosophical
Yeah, I mean,
question.
I think we deserve everything, but you just have to earn that
Hmm.
the thing that you deserve. You think you deserve. I mean, we deserve everything. Like if I mean, as long as you try, as long as you work for it, then you deserve everything. Like I mean, if you think you really work hard and live hard, then you deserve everything. I mean, there's no way I can judge that you don't deserve this and
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
I mean, you know yourself more than anybody, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends on how you feel about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because I mean, yeah, like you said, right? Like, um, I agree with you in that if you feel like you deserve something, um, like you have to earn it in some
Hmm.
sense. Like I look at it that way personally, to where I'm like, maybe it's just the way I'm wired, but I try to tell myself sometimes that I don't deserve something. I need to work for it. Like, I can't just sit in the corner of my room and be like, oh God, give me like $100,000. That's not going to
Hmm.
work until I work for a
Hmm.
$100,000 and make that money.
Or
So,
unless your parents are willing to give you that money.
yeah,
But
that's a
no,
different, yeah,
I didn't grow up in that environment.
right.
I'm lucky enough to be able to study here, but not enough to just have like $100,000 of like duffel bag from my parents to
Yeah,
spend,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Totally,
I mean, if
totally.
that's
No,
the
it's
case, then don't work for it. But if not, then do something. Do something to provide the environment to your children. Maybe.
definitely, definitely. No, I see where you're coming from 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I think things take effort, like things
Mhm.
take work. Without effort, um it's a lot harder to get the things that you want, in
Mhm.
some sense, because I think evolutionarily speaking too, is like a species, we've had to work for things. So I think as human beings we are built to
Mhm.
work.
Mhm.
But because like things have gotten a lot more easier, like you said, it's very easy to, like, not that it's very easy, but then we end up spending a lot of time on a chair or in a cubicle for long times of the day. um, so we have to sort of push ourselves to do more and be more active
Yeah,
to
and I'm not
counterbalance that.
saying this to you or anybody who watches this to just stay on your chair for 24 hours or stand for 24 hours. I mean, you still need a break. You don't want to burn out, but I'm just saying, like, if you want something extra, then you gotta put that, extra amount of time, maybe extra, an hour of like study or workout or something. Like, I'm not telling you to, spend 24 hours of, doing anything, because we can't do that.
Yeah, we have to sleep.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. But just like spend a little, like little by little every day. Then
Hmm.
eventually, you'll see the result. I mean, you'll see the outcome.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I see what you're saying. Um, yeah, because you mentioned a very interesting point, right? Like, I'm curious to know, have you heard of this like hustle culture word, like the term hustle culture?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's for those of you who don't know, who are listening and watching. I mean, it's just sort of like, I guess some people view it to be a little toxic, but then others are like, no, like that's me putting in the effort. But you brought up a very interesting point about burnout and like not,
Mhm. Oh
um,
yeah, oh yeah. I
yeah. So
mean,
for like,
humans can focus like for hours of doing something.
yeah. So for you, like, how do you have you ever like felt like you've been in a phase where you felt burnt out? And if not, that's fine. But I was just curious if you have, like, what did you have to do to sort of come out of that phase?
Oh, I think I felt some burnout, like, well, burnout mainly, like, I would say stress, like
Mm.
very stressed, that I would have a headache. My neck got real stiff and like just suffer with a really bad headache. But I think the only solution for that was, just don't think of anything, just lay on the bed and just do something. Like, don't think about the stress. Like, just do something else to, de-stress. You know what I'm saying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just don't do anything related to that, but just give yourself some free time.
Yeah, finding a
That's
way to
probably
sort
when you
of
deserve it.
right, yeah, finding a way to sort of divert your mind from the things
Yeah, yeah.
from the things that are causing you that stress.
Hmm.
Totally, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because I think especially because of like external pressure and internal pressure, like there's pressure from multiple places. Like you want to do better, and at the same time, there's people around you that want you to do better. So a lot of the times, I think that can lead to stress. But at the same time, it's also important to realize that stress is not entirely a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing if there's too much stress. Because I mean, I think um, in some like a good amount of stress can like also. And I've heard people talk about this. Like they mention the fact that we all need some stressors in life that push us to do things, but not to the extent to where you feel crippled by that stress.
Yeah, and
So
that's only gonna make you worse.
exactly, exactly. So it is definitely that distinction that you need to make of
Mhm.
um, not stressing out too much, but at the same time knowing that there will be some stress like that you have to deal with in everyday life, but not sort of making too much of that stress, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, it's quite fascinating. So like in terms of just as human beings, like the ups and downs that we go through, um, I think in itself like presents a lot of challenges, right?
Mhm.
How do you look at that, like the everyday ups and downs of life?
Can you repeat the question again?
Sure, like how do you look at like everyday ups and downs in life? Like, the fact like some days there's ups, there's great
Mhm.
things happening, some days there are not so many great things happening. So how do you look at that cycle of ups and downs?
Well, I mean, I just try to stay positive you know, when I ever feel any downs, because like I know that I won't always feel down. Like, I mean, I'll the good times will come eventually. So I just try to stay positive.
Like what are
Yeah,
some things that you do? Like do you like think about it? Do you like do
yeah. I just
something?
imagine like what's gonna happen. any good things that will happen ahead. That's what I really love like imagination, like imagining.
Mm.
Just you just get happy if you just imagine you're gonna have earn like $1 million like next tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I mean, even though it may be impossible, likely impossible, but it's great, right? It feels great. So I'm just trying to imagine. Think of something nice.
Mm.
Think of like I'm going out of overseas for vacation in August. So I just think of what I'm gonna do in August when I
Mm.
feel really down at work or
Mm.
in my apartment. Just think
Mm.
of anything that you're planning ahead, any good things.
Yeah, yeah. That can definitely like sort of serve as good motivation as well.
Yeah,
It
that
can
gives
get
you
you through.
motivation
Yeah,
because you're taking days off for that vacation, which
yeah.
means you have to get more things done before you go for before you'll be gone for those times, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Totally, yeah. Like it's that I guess in some sense it's like thinking having that level of optimism sort of drags you out in some sense, at least mentally, to
Hmm.
where you can see that there's something to work towards.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
one
think
hundred percent.
it's really all about the mindset, like what kind of mindset you're going to have.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Is it something that you had to learn, like to sort of have this positive mindset, or have you always like felt that you've had it?
Uh, well, I mean, I didn't really learn from anybody. You
Mm,
know, it's just the way I found to, not stay upset all the time. So
yeah.
mainly, just try different things. But I think this is the best thing because there's no way I can change like today, right? Because it's already happening. So I would rather, why don't I just like think of something that's gonna happen, like something nice that's gonna happen in in the future, and try to make me feel better because there's no way I can change the present right now.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like we can't necessarily change the time that's gone,
Hmm.
but we can sort of work today to change
Hmm.
tomorrow, I guess. Like I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
someone might have said
Hmm.
something like that. I
Hmm.
can't
Yeah, yeah,
attribute the
definitely.
quote. Yeah, so that's a very interesting sort of thought to
Hmm.
have, and I definitely feel like that's important for all of us to sort of think about,
Oh yeah,
especially when we
definitely.
have those moments of lows, because
Hmm.
it happens to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's not
There's
gonna
no
help if you just if you're concerned like all day long. Like you
yeah.
eventually, yeah, you have to do something to, you know, get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. No, I agree with you totally, totally, man.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's a good note to sort of close this section of the podcast off on, man. Like, I
Hmm. Oh
appreciate the
yeah.
fact that you mentioned that positive mindset thing towards the end, because it's something that we can all, like, sort of learn and try to adapt
Hmm.
in our lives. Like, even if
Hmm.
you feel, for those of you listening and watching, like, even if you feel like you're quite pessimistic towards the world,
Hmm.
there's definitely, like, you can definitely reframe a lot of the things that you see.
Hmm.
So don't
Yeah. Well,
necessarily
I mean,
feel down.
again, I'm not the perfect person.
No, nobody is.
I'm just trying to, share something that what I think and what I would do when I suffer, and I think most of the time it helps because that's what a lot of people I look up to do.
Totally, man. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. 100%. Um, like through talking about the fact that, we all have struggles. Because I think at the end of the
Hmm.
day, when you see someone successful, it can be easy to imagine that
Hmm.
they're always having the best of times. But
Hmm.
in reality, they've also had to go through some struggles. So, like,
Hmm.
I think that realization also helps in going a long way in terms of helping to help ourselves to deal with those situations. So
Hmm.
totally, I agree with everything you said. But yeah, we're gonna go into the word association game called Bish Bash
Hmm.
Bosh, where
Okay.
basically I will give you five different words,
Hmm.
one word at a time, and you have to respond to each word in three other words or three other phrases. For those of you who are new around here, who are listening and watching, all the words that I give to the guests are the same, and this is just a way to see how people respond to the same words similarly or differently, because it's kind of interesting to see how that works. And also, you can catch these clips on Instagram at Random Relatability, which you can find the link for in the description or the show notes, irrespective of whether you're watching this or you're listening to this. Excuse me. So yeah, let's get into it. The first word of this segment of Bish Bash Bosh is differences. What are the three things calling out to you when you hear the word differences, Minbo?
Okay, it may take a little bit of time for me to think. Differences.
You don't need to think too hard. It can just be the
Mhm.
words that are sort of floating in your head right now.
Differences. I guess like a background. That's
Mm.
one thing I can think of. Uh, Opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the last thing? Appearance, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
hmm
Totally. Totally, yeah. The second word is nuance.
hmm Second one,
It's nuance.
nuance.
Mm-hmm. It
Oh,
basically means like subtlety
oh
and all
yeah.
that sort of stuff, yeah.
I mean that actually nuance. I guess meaning,
Mm-hmm.
definition,
Mm-hmm.
expression,
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What are the things that come to your mind when you hear the word learning?
learning. Uh, you know, are you talking about a phrase? A phrase?
It can be anything. If you
Okay.
want to share a phrase, you can share a phrase or
Learning.
you can share a word.
I'll say. I'll say it's a power.
Mm.
It's power. It's a new power you'll gain because you may, you know, whatever you learn, uh, you know, can make you, more powerful than everyone else.
Definitely. Definitely. I
hmm
see where you're coming from. The fourth word is empathy. What are some things that are calling out to you when you hear the word empathy?
Emotion,
Mm.
understanding, agreement. I guess.
Definitely. Cool. And the last word for this segment of Bish Bash Bosh is similarities. What are some things that are calling out to you when you hear the word similarities?
I'll say background first.
Mm.
Yeah, that's one thing I can think of right now.
That's okay. No
Yes.
problem. That's okay. It's interesting that you thought about background for both similarities
hmm
and differences.
hmm
That's kind of interesting. But anyway, thank you so much for playing along on this segment of Bish Bash Bosh, man. Bro, I
It was
really
quite.
appreciate it.
It was quite a tough. It's kind of tough. You have to get ready.
Yeah. No, totally. I see where you're coming from. But just two more questions. Well, last one's not really a question, but the first question being, how do you relate to people?
How do I relate? Uh, I honestly think like we're the same, no matter what the background is. You may feel the different. You may feel different, or you may feel the boundary from others. But I think it's really about like understanding. You know, stepping back for the other, and eventually meet at the same place to you know be just because we're the same eventually.
Definitely,
Just
like yeah,
meeting at the
found.
same place. Yeah.
Yeah. Foundationally speaking, for
hmm
sure,
Just
for sure.
embracing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, for the last question, which is not really a question, but if you have any parting thoughts or any closing thoughts like that you'd like to sort of mention before we um, get done for the day, feel free to share. Like if you have
Yeah.
something to share, like or something that you want the listeners to think about, whatever it may be.
It's 9 p.m. right now. Just wanna say tell everyone that you've done a great job today. I mean, I hope uh, you had a really great day. I hope you worked hard, and if you think you worked hard, now it's all yours. Do whatever you want, and work hard. Work harder tomorrow.
Awesome. That's beautiful.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful note to close off on.
Mhm.
Irrespective of if you're listening to this in the morning when it comes out or if you're listening to this in the evening,
Mhm.
some motivation for the day. But
Yeah.
yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much, Minbo, for sharing everything
Yeah.
that
No
you did,
problem.
man.
Yeah. Thank you for having
Um,
me.
of course, of course, of course. And yeah, for those of you listening and watching out there, thank you so much. And we'll see you guys next time.